You're good.
Thank you. I call this meeting to order. Confirmation of the agenda that the Committee of the Adjustment hereby accept the amended agenda for May 3rd, 2021 public hearing as presented. Do I have a mover? I have Rick moving. I have Paul seconding. Or sorry, Carson.
Thank you, Chair Bailey. So Committee Member Sipe,
Yes.
Committee Member Falconer,
Yes.
Committee Member Heifer,
Yes.
Committee Member Van Hittersum has just joined the meeting here, it looks like, so I'll come back to her. Committee Member Palmer,
Yes.
Committee Member McBurney,
Yes.
Committee Member Van Hittersum, can you hear us?
Yes. Yes, I can
Okay.
hear you. Thank you. Sorry, I have some connection problems.
No worries. So the motion on the floor is that the Committee of Adjustment hereby accepts the amended agenda for the May 3rd, 2021 public hearing as presented. So we're looking for your vote on that motion.
Yes.
And Chair Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Declaration of.
So, and Chair Bailey, just before, so any members of the public, just leave your videos off for now so that the committee members can all see each other. And then when it's time to speak during the comments section, there will be an opportunity to.
Thank you. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, and again, Carson, I'm not seeing all the counselors, so if you see someone, I appreciate you, or a counselor, speak up. Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, that the Committee of Adjustment hereby adopts the minutes from the Committee of Adjustment hearing held April 19th, 2021 as presented. Do I have a mover?
I'll move that.
I have Kevin moving. Do I have a seconder? I have Anita seconding. Thank you. I'll hand it over to you, Carson.
Thank you, Chair Bailey. So Committee Member Falconer,
Yes.
Committee Member Heifer,
Yes.
Committee Member Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Committee Member Palmer,
Yes.
Committee Member McBurney,
Yes.
Committee Member Sipe,
Yes.
and Chair Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Statement of precedent that any decision reached by the committee cannot be used as a precedent. Number 6, scheduled applications, file 6.1. File number MV03-2021, location concession 1, part of lot 3, registered plan 22R 3752. Part 1, 133 Charles Street, Wingham, Ontario, Township of North Huron. Application owners are Harry Baker, Richard, Audrey, and Harry Baker. And 6.1.1, presentation from the county planner. Monica, if you don't mind.
Good evening, Chair Bailey. Thank you for that introduction and good evening, members of the committee. Those that are in attendance for this public meeting on minor variance, and I believe a representative from the applicant is also on the call. So good evening, everyone. This is an application for minor variance. I'm just going to share my screen so that I can click through my presentation. So I'll leave that right here for you. So this is an application for minor variance, and tonight we are having the public meeting. The application is minor variance number 02 for 2021. The applicant owners are Harry Baker applicant on behalf of the owners Richard, Audrey, and Harry Baker. The location of the property is at 133 Charles Street, which is a residential address in Wingham. The subject property is zoned residential low density, or R1, and the property is did I say zoned? The property is zoned R1 residential low density and designated in the Township of North Huron official plan as residential. The purpose of the application before the committee tonight is to recognize an existing residence that is not currently in compliance with some of the provisions of the North Huron zoning bylaw. So the request from the applicants is a variance to recognize a 6.81 rear yard setback, a 1.4 meter side yard setback for the main dwelling, and a 0.31 side yard setback for external stairs. These numbers are fairly exact because they have been confirmed on a survey. So the application is for minor variance to recognize this existing building on 133 Charles Street in Wingham. The photo that I have before you, I usually do a photo from WebGIS, but in this case, I did a photo from Google Maps because the WebGIS aerial photography is only up to date since to 2015, and this home was constructed since then. In reviewing this application and reviewing its issues with the township zoning bylaw, the minor variance seeks relief from the provisions of section 26.4 of the Township of North Huron zoning bylaw. That section requires a minimum interior side yard setback of 1.5 meters for a residence with an attached garage and a minimum rear yard setback of 8 meters. And this is asking for relief from those provisions to the provisions of section 3.8 rather. Section 3.8 allows exterior staircases to encroach into the required side yard up to 1.5 meters. But in this case, the existing house is already located within that 1.5 meter side yard. And the requirement is that no part of the structure extend closer than 1.5 meters to the lot line. While in fact, the external stairs are located 0.31 from the side yard. So in summary, there are 3 variances that are being requested. They're all requested against an existing situation. So the existing construction of the home as it exists today. For 2 of the provisions, the rear yard setback and the interior side yard setback for the main dwelling, we are talking about recognizing the existing structure, the building that is there. For the external stairs, those are constructed there and in place, and they provide access to the side of the building to an external door, but they don't make up part of the main footprint of the building, and they're not, I guess you would say, part of the supporting structure for the building. Rather, they're an add-on to provide stairs access. So this air photo shows an okay idea of how the house in question is placed on the lot and its relation to surrounding properties. In reviewing an application for minor variance, consideration must be given to the 4 tests set out in the Planning Act. The 4 tests are: does it meet the intent of the North Huron official plan? Does it meet the intent of the North Huron zoning bylaw? Is it desirable for the appropriate development of the subject lands? And is it minor in nature? In considering all of these questions, the planning department has considered the fact that the applicants are requesting legal recognition of an existing building, and consideration was given to the existing impacts of the building as it exists today, and information that was available at the time of writing my report was that there were not serious offsite impacts occurring because of this application or because of this existing dwelling. It's my understanding, I've been made aware that since the time of submitting my report, a few letters of objection from neighbors have been received. I know that there's a letter from Mrs. Audrey McKay that has been provided to council. I might just speak to that one briefly. There's a question in that letter about maximum lot coverage. The maximum lot coverage in the R1 zone is 35%. And when I received that question from Mrs. McKeag, I did some analysis of the subject lands. The subject house is very close to meeting that maximum, but it is less than 35%. When I did the calculation, it was over 34% lot coverage. So very close to that threshold, but not in violation of that requirement of the zoning bylaw. I believe the other folks that have objections are on the meeting tonight, so I will allow them to make their comments for themselves. And I'm available if council has any questions. At this time, my recommendation is for approval of the minor variance. However, council should take into consideration the comments that are received at tonight's public meeting. And if council is inclined to consider a different decision other than approval, I'd be happy to provide further recommendations. So with that, I'll perhaps hand the meeting back over to the chair, and I'm available if there are any further questions. Oh,
Thank you
that's
very
just
much.
a couple.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Monica. Thank you very much, Monica. Okay, we're going to now, before I continue on, I just want to point out to those that maybe aren't used to these meetings, under no circumstances do we accept personal attacks on people that are with us or not with us. So keep that in mind. This is strictly on the size of the lot and the legalities around it. So I appreciate it, but keep that in mind. So next would be 6.1.2, and this is an opportunity for the applicant or their agents to speak if you'd like. So if Mr. Baker is there, or any of them, if they'd like to speak, and I cannot see them, so Carson, if you could let me know.
So I believe Doug Colbert is on the line to speak to the
Douglas?
applicant.
Douglas, would you like to go ahead?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members, and Monica. I'll keep it short and sweet. I don't know the history of this property. I don't know how these situations came to be, but essentially we agree with the recommendation by the department. I'm not sure how else to approach it other than that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very kindly. Now, is there anyone else that would like to speak up? I'm not hearing anyone, so we'll move on to 6.1.3. This is opportunity for comments from others in attendance. So that would be those that are opposed. Is there anyone out there that would like to speak to this?
So Chair Bailey, I guess I would note, so there's attached to the Committee of Adjustments agenda package will be the two sets of written comments that were referenced by the planner in her presentation. So the committee, for the benefit of the public, the committee has received the written comments provided by Bruce and Sharon Sealing, as well as the written comments provided by Ken and Audrey McKeag. And I guess there are a number of other members of the public online. So at this time, if you would like to speak to the minor variance application, just unmute yourself and you can turn on your video and the committee will be able to see you.
Jane, did you want to speak?
Yeah.
There you go. We hear you now, Jane.
Councilor Mayor Bernie and other councillors, what would happen if you didn't approve the variance?
I'm going to hand that over to Monica to answer that one. Monica,
I think that if the variance was not approved, it would become an enforcement issue for the township, that there is an existing building that was constructed that doesn't meet the requirements of the North Huron zoning bylaw. The township is not required to enforce its zoning bylaw, and there could be complaints that the township would have to attempt to address, but with the building being constructed, it's very unlikely that the the deficient setbacks or could be addressed by modifications to the building, because to do so would affect the building as it's constructed and would result in a great deal of expense to bring it into compliance with the zoning bylaw. The only change that I could think would be less difficult to achieve would be to remove the external stairs that encroach into the side yard setback. That could perhaps be done without affecting the structural integrity of the building. And perhaps there's an alternative way that folks could enter that building with moving that entry door. So to summarize, if the minor variance is not approved tonight, the structure as it exists today would continue to be not in compliance with the township zoning bylaw, and that would continue to cause legal issues for the title of the real estate. It will always come up as an issue if the current owners go to sell the property, and it will remain illegal and out of compliance with the township zoning bylaw, which could be a compliance issue for the township.
Thank you, Monica. I sympathize with everything. And I understand being the backyard neighbor who has to look at this rather huge building very close to my lot. It's like a big barn. That they would have issues probably renting this granny flat without the side stairs. Does zoning R1 allow renting of a portion of the house?
Again, Monica, I'm going to hand that back to you, I believe.
Yes, a secondary unit within an existing dwelling is a permitted use in the R1 zone. So a rental unit within a house is a permitted unit or permitted use.
Okay. Who is responsible for checking up on the building inspectors? Or how did this happen? I know this isn't probably on your topic tonight and shouldn't be asked, but
That's what I'd like to know also.
Actually, I'm just gonna talk to that a second, okay? I believe this is a building inspector that's no longer here, it's my understanding. So I'm not sure we should be talking about him. I do understand, Jane, I do understand the question and where it's coming from. Unless staff can correct me differently, he is not here. So
okay.
I don't think it's proper for us to talk about.
All right, I don't want to talk about the building inspector, but Bernie,
Yep.
a fence was installed. I was not allowed to climb over the fence and measure from the fence to this very close building that I look at every day. And
As we do
how
as
would
well.
I have known that he was in violation? Who would have known? And 5 years have gone by.
I'm going to ask staff. I'm not sure which staff can address that question. Just before I ask staff, Kevin, did you want to say something, or somebody did speak up there? I don't know who it was.
Maybe you can hear me. It's Bruce Sealy. I live directly across the road from it, and I'm seeing much of this the same way that the lady that just spoke to.
Okay, my friend, I'm going to let Jane finish hers, and then if you want, you can speak up. You were a little garbled there, and I didn't catch your name, but we'll let Jane finish her train of thought here first, and we'll let you speak. Can any of the staff answer that question? Yeah, he's not here. And he's no longer an employee of the town. I don't even know.
All right, that's fine, Bernie.
Sorry.
I feel like my house property has been devalued if I ever went to sell. I have this huge, really close to my, if you saw the map looking down, I'm the house with the pool. And this thing is 6 meters away from the property. It looks like a big barn in my backyard. It's frustrating.
And I do hear you, Jane. I do hear you.
It doesn't look good from our side either.
I, 5 years ago, never thought I had any recourse but to accept the fact that this is his property. It's probably been all legalized. He's free to go ahead and build what he likes. here we are now. I think it's a mess.
As well.
Deputy Reeve Sipes would like to speak, and then the gentleman that's cutting in, he can speak.
Well, so Reeve Bailey, so there's a time for Committee of Adjustment members to ask their questions later on in the agenda. I guess at this point, the purpose of the public meeting is to discuss the 3 variances in question that the planner has outlined, and that would be the purpose of the discussion in relation to Jane's question about the chief building official. Certainly not the answer that I'm sure she's looking to hear, but ultimately, at this point in time, it's just a matter of how the Committee of Adjustment wants to proceed with the 3 minor variances, regardless of the history of the property, I guess.
Jane, is there?
You hear
anything-
me?
Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, I'm across the road. My concern definitely would be the stairs. In case of a fire, that they wouldn't be able to get down that side. Is this not a big concern?
Monica, can you address that one?
Yes, I guess the question is if there was a fire and if there was difficulty exiting that side of the building, is that an issue for the planning department? There is clearance from the property line, so we don't have an issue of the stairs encroaching on neighboring property. It is right up to the property line. So if people were using those stairs to enter or leave the building on a day-to-day basis, either in an emergency situation or not, they currently are able to do so without entering into neighboring property. So I believe that
I was thinking more of putting the fire out with the firemen and the hose.
it would limit access from the front to the rear of the property on that side of the building with those stairs there, but there is potentially opportunity to enter to the rear on the other side of the property.
Yeah, if nothing's parked there, I guess, all the time, yep.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak to this? I want to thank everybody for your comments, concerns. We did hear them as a council. We did hear them, and we're going to move forward now. So next would be, I'm not seeing anybody else wanted to speak up. So next would be opportunities, I believe, questions and comments from the adjustment members. And that, Trevor, you wanted to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Chair. My comment really is I completely understand where the member or the others in attendance have concerns about this property. Obviously, that is an issue that the municipality is going to have to deal with in its own light as it relates to compliance of a building that's already existing. That's one of the reasons why this conversation is being had tonight. One of the things that I will say is, it is responsibility of, the CBO and the CAO in the municipality to ensure that obviously the jobs are being completed as required. So, as councillors, we are not, I'm not taking any ownership or not dismissing any ownership that the council has at the time. However, we're not looking at development every day and on how it complies to the zoning bylaw or whatever. We really look for staffs to ensure that our compliance is being met regarding these types of things. And one of the issues that we're having tonight is exactly that. So, I mean, I completely understand the comments and the overall frustration from people who voiced some concerns about this property, and actually any property that may or may not meet the zoning bylaw. So, I just want to make that comment, Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy Reeve Site. Any other committee members like to speak to this? I am not seeing any. So we're going to do a summary comments and recommendations of the Huron County Planning Department now. Do you want to summarize it, Monica?
Certainly. The recommendation of the planning department is that the application for minor variances be approved. There are no recommended conditions. If the application, if the committee wishes to approve all 3 variances, then the application for the 3 variances being recommended for approval by the planning department could be approved, or the application could be approved in part. I'm happy to provide further guidance if there's any further questions, but our recommendation is for approval of all 3 variances.
Thank you. I will read the recommendation that the Committee of the Adjustment hereby approves minor variation application MV03-2021 as it applies to concession 1 part of lot 3 registered plan 22R 3752 part 1 133 Charles Street, Wakeham, Township of North Huron. Application owners Harry Baker, Richard, Audrey, and Harry Baker, with the conditions set out in the report presented by Monica Walker-Bolton, planner, at the May 3rd, 2021 Committee of Adjustment meeting for the minor variance of MV 02-2021.
That's your second motion, Chair Bailey.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself there, Carson. So do I have a mover and seconder for the Committee of Adjustment?
Reed?
I have Deputy
Reed,
Reed
I have a question before, in regards to that motion, Reed, just before we start.
Yep.
So,
Yep, go ahead.
the question I have is, I want to confirm, Monica's report talks about application MV 0201. Our motion says 03-2021. I guess the question is, which one is it? We have to make sure, I want to just make sure the motion is correct.
It's 03.
Okay, so any reference to 02, and there's no reference to that in there, but just keep a reminder of that when it comes up to the next motion. I mean, so I just want to make sure in clarity to make sure we're making the motion correct. So I will move that motion, Chair.
Thank you kindly. Seconder, please. I have Paul Heffer seconding. I had to take my video down because I lost you guys, so just so you know I'm still here. Okay, Carson, I'll hand it over to you now for roll call.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Committee Member Heffer?
Yes.
Committee Member Van Hittersum?
Yes.
Committee Member Palmer?
Yes.
Committee Member McBurney?
Yes.
Committee Member Sipe?
Yes.
Committee Member Falconer?
Yes.
And Chair Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very kindly. And the second motion on the floor, we're going to hand it over to Monica to make a motion for us based on the chart.
Thank you, Chair Bailey. I have the chart available here. I just have to share my screen, so just one moment. So in this case, there were public comments and there were agency comments. There were public comments raised with concerns on the issues of the existing construction not meeting setbacks. Comments were thoroughly considered, but the effect did not influence the decision of council to approve the application. So in that case, it would be 5A. For agency comments, supportive agency comments were received. Agency comments were received in support of the application, the effect of which resulted in a decision to approve the application. So that would be 3B.
Thank you, Monica. Take down your screen. Thank you. So I have a mover for 5A and 3B. I have Paul Hepper moving. I have Anita Hintersum seconding. Carson, I'll give it to you.
Thank you, Chair Bailey. So Committee Member Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Committee Member Palmer,
Yes.
Committee Member McBurney,
Yes.
Committee Member Sipe,
Yes.
Committee Member Falconer,
Yes.
Committee Member Heifer,
Yes.
and Chair Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Number 8, reminder of appeal period, minor variance procedure following a public meeting. The Secretary Treasurer sends within 10 days a certified copy of the decision indicating the last day of appealing to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, LPAT, to the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, if requested. Each person who appeared in person or by counsel at the hearings and who with the Secretary Treasurer a written request for notice of decision if no appeal is lodged. After the 20-day objection period has expired and no appeal has been lodged, the decision of the Committee of Adjustment is final and binding. The Secretary Treasurer shall notify the applicant. If the notice of appeal is lodged within the 20 days of the Committee of Adjustment making the decision, an appeal is lodged with the Secretary Treasurer outlining the reasons for the appeal, and the said appeal is accompanied by a required fee of $400, the Committee of Adjustment no longer retains jurisdiction over the application. If a proper appeal is lodged, the Secretary Treasurer is required to provide proper notice to the Local Planning Appeal Board, LPAT. Adjournment, that there be no further business before the Committee of Adjustment. The public hearing is now hereby adjourned at 6:03. Do I have a mover? I have Trevor Sipes moving, Kevin Faulkner seconding, and I'll hand it over to Carson.
Thank you, Chair Bailey. So Committee Member Palmer,
Yes.
Committee Member McBurney,
Yes.
Committee Member Sipe,
Yes.
Committee Member Falconer,
Yes.
Committee Member Heifer,
Yes.
Committee Member Van Hittersum,
Yes.
and Chair Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.